The doorbell rang at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Then it rang again, and again. The sound pierced through my new apartment like a siren, each chime more aggressive than the last. I was standing in my kitchen, still in my work clothes, a glass of wine halfway to my lips when the pounding started. Not knocking, pounding, the kind that makes your neighbors peer through peepholes and dial 911. I looked through the security camera feed on my phone. My stomach dropped. Jax, my mother Brenda, my father Rick, all three of them standing outside my door like a firing squad. Jax's face was twisted with rage, his shoulder already positioned to ram the door. His voice cut through the wood and metal like a blade. "Harper Vance, you think you can hide forever? Open this door right now. If you want to hear how a 29-year-old marketing director making $280,000 a year ended up barricaded in her own apartment while her family tried to break down the door, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me if you would have opened that door or called the police immediately. Because what happened next changed everything. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back, way back. Boise, Idaho, ranch house, 4th of July block parties and Sunday church gossip. That's where I learned the pecking order. Rick and Brenda Vance didn't beat us, didn't lock us in closets. They just had favorites, and I wasn't one. Jax was the golden child, 2 years younger football player for exactly 1 season until practice got too hard. He'd borrow Dad's truck, return it on empty with mystery dents. Ask Mom for lunch money, spend it on vapes. Every time they'd smile and make excuses. He's still figuring things out. Mom adjusting her Sunday pearls. Boys mature slower. Dad eyes glued to ESB. I had a sister once. Skylar. 7 years older, too fierce for Mom's liking. When I was 9, she packed her car and disappeared. Mom told church ladies she got a job in Portland. That tight smile that never reached her eyes. I learned fast not to ask questions. Questions made Mom's face go cold. So I became the good daughter. Straight A's. Part-time library job. Bought my own textbooks because there wasn't enough money for both kids and Jax needed it more. "You're so smart, Harper. You'll figure it out." That's what Mom said when Jax got the Bank of Mom and Dad scholarship while I got student loans. 25 hours a week shelving books. Summer classes to graduate early. Ramen for dinner most nights. Jax flunked out first semester. Call of Duty was more important than Business 101. Did they kick him out? No. They bought him a PlayStation and called it a gap year. I graduated with honors. Got hired at a marketing firm. $32,000 a year. Moved into a studio that smelled like bleach and disappointment. But it was mine. For the first time, I was standing on my own feet. 6 months. That's how long the piece lasted. Wednesday afternoon. Mom's voice dripped honey through the phone. "Sweetheart, we need to talk. Sunday dinner?" I should have known. Pot roast. Passive aggression. Jax showed up late, reeking of weed, took the biggest portion. Dad asked about work without listening. Then Mom struck between the main course and dessert. "Your father and I are behind on the mortgage. Just a few months. Since you're doing so well now, maybe you could help $500 a month just temporarily. $500. 2 weeks of groceries, car insurance, the line between surviving and drowning." They all stared at me. Dad's hangdog eyes, Mom's expectant smile, Jax scrolling through his phone like this had nothing to do with him. "Okay, I can do that." Mom beamed. "Oh, Harper, always so responsible." 4 years. That's how long temporarily lasted. The mortgage stayed behind. Always another crisis. Water heater, transmission. Jax's certification program he never finished. Every time I tried to say no, Mom had guilt locked and loaded. After everything we sacrificed. Family takes care of family. Grandpa would be so disappointed. Grandpa Howard lived in a Meridian retirement home. Gruff honest, the only family member I actually liked. We'd drink instant coffee and talk about everything except them. He knew, had to, but he was old and tired, and peace was easier than war. 26, marketing director at a tech startup, $160,000. I felt rich, moved to an apartment with working heat, paid off my student loans, finally breathed. Then they found out. More calls, bigger asks. Jax's food truck that never happened, Dad's new truck, Mom's kitchen renovation. "You're making all that money now." I gave and gave and gave, told myself this was love. This was what good daughters did. 28. Senior Director, $240,000. I didn't tell them this time. Opened a secret savings account. Started seeing Dr. Chen, who asked dangerous questions. Why do you feel responsible for their problems? What would happen if you said no? I couldn't answer. Because saying no meant being the bad daughter, meant being selfish, meant being Skylar, the sister whose name was only whispered in disappointment. Then came last year. I was 29. I had just been promoted again, this time to marketing director with a salary of $280,000. I had worked my ass off for that position. 80-hour weeks. Presentations that made executives weep with joy. A campaign that increased our client base by 47%. I was celebrating with my team at a downtown restaurant when my phone exploded with notifications. The family group chat, the one I had muted months ago, was lighting up like a Christmas tree. I opened it. There were 17 messages from my mother, 6 from Jax, 3 from various aunts and uncles I barely spoke to, and 1 photo that made my blood run cold. It was a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile, my new title, my company, and a caption from Jax that read, "Look who's been holding out on the family. Must be nice to be so successful while your brother sleeps on couches." My mother's message came through seconds later. "We need to talk. Tomorrow. Don't make excuses." I should have blocked them right then. Dr. Chen had been preparing me for this moment for months. She had given me scripts, practiced responses, and coping mechanisms for the guilt. But I was still that little girl who wanted her mother's approval, so I agreed to meet them for coffee. They didn't want coffee. They wanted a financial summit. We met at a Starbucks near the mall. Mom showed up in her good coat, the one she saved for occasions. Dad looked uncomfortable in a button-down shirt. Jax wore sweatpants and a smirk. Mom didn't waste time on pleasantries. $280,000. She said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "That's what you're making now, and you didn't think to tell your own mother." "It's my private information," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My salary isn't really anyone's business but mine." "Your family's business is your business," she snapped. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us, by hiding your success." Jax leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "I'm living in a friend's basement, Harper. You're pulling in almost $300,000 and you can't help your own brother." "I've been helping for years," I said, and I could hear the exhaustion in my own voice. "I've sent thousands of dollars, tens of thousands. When does it end?" Mom's eyes went cold. "When we say it ends, you don't get to decide you're done with your family." Dad finally spoke up. "We just need a little help to get back on our feet. We're thinking about buying an RV traveling the country. We deserve that after working so hard all these years. We need about $40,000 for a down payment." $40,000. They wanted $40,000 so they could travel in an RV, while I had sacrificed my 20s to keep them afloat. Something inside me snapped. "No," I said. The word came out quiet but firm. Mom blinked. "Excuse me. No, I'm not giving you $40,000. I'm not giving you anything else. I'm done." Jax leaned forward, his smirk gone. "You're done. You don't get to be done, Harper. Family doesn't work like that." "This family does," I said, standing up. My hands were shaking, but my voice was clear. "I've supported you for years. I put myself through college. I've sent money every time you asked, and it's never enough. It's never going to be enough. So I'm done." I walked out of that Starbucks and didn't look back. I blocked their numbers on my way to my car. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes crying so hard I thought I might throw up. Then I drove home, poured myself a glass of wine, and felt something that terrified me. Relief. The peace lasted 3 weeks. 3 blessed weeks of silence. I focused on work. I went on dates. I started a new workout routine. Dr. Chen was proud of me. And then they found my address, which brings us back to that Tuesday night. 11:47 p.m. The pounding on my door. Jax's voice screaming through the wood that I was a selfish bitch who abandoned her family. Mom's voice higher pitched and venomous, saying I'd regret this. Dad saying nothing, just standing there like a sad shadow. I didn't open the door. Instead, I held up my phone so they could see it through the security camera. The screen showed 911, my thumb hovering over the call button. My thumb hovering. "You have 5 seconds to step back from my door," I said through the intercom system. "Or I'm calling the police." Jax laughed, but it was an ugly sound. You're going to call the cops on your own family. That's rich. Real classy Harper. One, I counted. Mom's face appeared in the camera, her makeup slightly smudged. She held up her own phone flash on. Smile, Harper. Let's show the family how you treat your parents. Two, she was typing frantically, probably posting to Facebook already. My phone buzzed. A notification from the family group chat I had blocked. Someone had unblocked me. There was a photo of my door, my apartment number visible, and a caption from Mom. Harper Vance, the daughter who turned her back on family in their time of need. 3. Dad finally spoke, his voice muffled through the door. Come on, Harper. This is getting out of hand. Just talk to us like adults. 4. Jax slammed his fist against the door one more time. The whole frame rattled. My neighbor Bill from 4C poked his head out, concern on his elderly face. I waved to let him know I was okay. 5. I pressed call. The 911 operator was calm and professional. 911, what's your emergency? 3 people are trying to force their way into my apartment. They're refusing to leave, and I feel threatened. One of them is physically assaulting my door. I could hear the operator typing. Are you safe right now? Are you able to lock yourself in a room? I'm safe. The door is locked, but they won't leave. Officers are on the way. Stay on the line with me. Through the camera, I watched my family's faces change. They heard me giving my address. Mom's phone lowered. Dad took a step back. Jax's face twisted with rage. This isn't over, Jax said, pointing at the camera. Not even close. They left before the police arrived. The officers came anyway, took my statement, photographed the scuff marks Jax's boots had left on my door. They asked if I wanted to file a report. I said yes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch, every light in the apartment on, jumping at every small sound. My phone was still going off with notifications. The family group chat was exploding. Aunts and uncles I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly very interested in my well-being, or rather very interested in calling me ungrateful, selfish, and worse. I read every message. I let them cut into me, and then I screenshot every single one. The next morning, I did something I should have done months ago. I called a lawyer. Eleanor Reyes, or Ellie, as she insisted I call her, was a family law attorney with a reputation for being fierce. She was in her 40s, impeccably dressed with sharp eyes that didn't miss anything. Her office smelled like leather and expensive coffee. I showed her everything, the bank statements showing years of transfers, the text messages, the voicemails, the screenshots from the group chat, the police report from last night. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on her legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Harper, I'm going to be very direct with you. What you've described is financial exploitation and harassment. This is a pattern of abuse. You understand that, right? The word abuse made me flinch. It's just family drama. No, she said firmly. It's abuse, and we're going to put a stop to it. I'm recommending we file for a restraining order against all 3 of them. We have documented harassment, attempted forced entry, and credible threats. Won't that make things worse? Ellie smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who enjoyed her job. They're already at your door at midnight threatening you. How much worse can it get? She had a point. We filed for the restraining order that afternoon. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, Ellie advised me to document everything and not respond to any attempts at contact. I thought that would be the end of it. I was naive. 3 days later, I woke up to 17 missed calls. Not from my family, from my coworkers. I checked my email with shaking hands. Someone had sent a mass email to our entire marketing distribution list. The subject line read, Emergency Harper Vance refuses help for dying father. My stomach dropped as I opened it. The email contained a photo blurry and clearly staged of someone's wrist in a hospital bracelet. The text below was written in that breathless, emotional style designed to manipulate. Please help. Harper Vance's father was rushed to the hospital last night with a heart condition. The family is facing bankruptcy from medical bills. Harper, despite making nearly $300,000 a year, has refused to help even as her father fights for his life. If you work with Harper, please urge her to do the right thing and support her family in this difficult time. It was all lies. Dad wasn't in the hospital. The photo was a stock image, I could tell by the generic blue background, but it had been sent to over 200 people, colleagues, clients, and business contacts. My phone rang. It was Sawyer from HR. Harper, we need to talk. This email is creating a situation. I drove to the office in a daze. Sawyer was sympathetic but firm. I understand this is a personal matter, but it's affecting your professional reputation. We've had several clients ask if you're okay to manage their accounts given your supposed family crisis. It's not real, I said, my voice cracking. It's harassment. I'm getting a restraining order. Sawyer's expression softened. I believe you, but perception matters in this industry. I need you to get ahead of this. Talk to our general counsel, document everything, and please send a statement to our leadership team clarifying the situation. I spent the entire day doing damage control. I sent a carefully worded email explaining that I was the victim of a harassment campaign by family members and was pursuing legal action. I forwarded Ellie's contact information. I attached the police report from the door incident. Most people were understanding. A few were skeptical. And one person, a client I'd worked with for 2 years, canceled their contract. I just can't have this kind of drama attached to my brand, they said. That night, I sat in my apartment and cried angry tears. They were costing me more than money now. They were attacking my reputation, my career, everything I'd built. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Answer your phone, this is Skylar. Skylar, my sister, the one who disappeared 10 years ago. I called immediately. Her voice was older, rougher, but unmistakably hers. Harper, I saw the Facebook post. Mom's been busy. Skylar, where have you been? Portland. I've been in Portland. Look, I don't have much time and this is hard to say. I left because of them, because of what Mom did. What are you talking about? There was a long pause. Your freshman year at Boise State, Mom told you she was paying your tuition right, that it was covered. She said it was a family contribution, that she and Dad were handling it. Skylar laughed, but it was bitter. Harper, they never paid a cent. You paid for college yourself. I know because I saw the bank statements. Mom was supposed to transfer money for your tuition. Instead, she spent it at the casino. $18,000. All of it. At the Bellagio in Vegas during 2 weeks that spring. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. That's not possible. She showed me receipts. Fake receipts. I have proof. I've had it for 10 years. That's why I left. I confronted Mom about it. She forged my signature on a car loan, trashed my credit, and then blamed me for being irresponsible. When I found out about your tuition money, I lost it. We had a huge fight. Dad took her side. So I left. I'm sorry I didn't reach out sooner. I was angry at all of them, and you were still under their control. Can you send me the proof? Already on its way to your email. Bank statements, casino receipts, and a lovely selfie of Mom at the roulette table. Date stamped. Harper, she's been lying to you your entire life. About money, about me, about everything. The email came through while we were still on the phone. I opened the attachments with shaking hands. There it was. 7 casino receipts from the Bellagio totaling $18,000, all dated during the spring semester of my freshman year, the exact period when Mom claimed she was paying my tuition. And the photo. Mom in a glittering top chips stacked in front of her, smiling like she'd won the lottery. I had eaten ramen for months that semester. I had worked double shifts at the library. I had cried myself to sleep, worried about how I'd afford books. And she had been gambling away $18,000 in Las Vegas. Harper, you still there? Yeah, I whispered. I'm here. Skylar, thank you. Thank you for reaching out. Get them, little sister, get them good. The restraining order hearing was the following week. Ellie and I walked into the courthouse at now 9 a.m. sharp. The hallways smelled like old paper and lemon cleaner. We went through security, found our courtroom, and waited. My family showed up at 9:15. Mom was dressed conservatively, gray cardigan and pearls. She looked like a concerned mother, not a manipulative grifter. Dad wore slacks and a dress shirt, his expression hangdog and sorrowful. Jax was in the bathroom, according to Mom's whispered explanation to the bailiff. They sat across from us. Mom tried to make eye contact. I stared straight ahead. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Harland, called the case. Ellie stood and presented our evidence methodically. The police report, the threatening messages, the harassment at my workplace, the attempted forced entry, the years of financial exploitation. Mom's lawyer, a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, tried to paint it as a family misunderstanding. Your Honor, these are loving parents who are simply concerned about their daughter's welfare. They may have been overzealous, but there was no malicious intent. Judge Harland looked unimpressed. Breaking down someone's door at midnight doesn't sound like love counselor. It sounds like criminal harassment. Mom started to cry, actual tears rolling down her face. It was a performance I'd seen 100 times. I just wanted to talk to my daughter, she sobbed. She cut us off without explanation. We were desperate. Ellie stood again. Your Honor, if I may, the defendant claims she cut them off without explanation. I'd like to enter into evidence the text messages where Ms. Vance clearly explained her boundaries and asked her family to respect them. I'll also note that the family had been receiving significant financial support from Ms. Vance for years, support that she was under no legal obligation to provide. The judge reviewed the texts. Her expression grew harder with each page. Mrs. Vance, your daughter told you no, multiple times, in very clear language. That's not cutting someone off without explanation. That's setting a boundary. But Mom had one more card to play. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, we'd like to request a competency evaluation for Ms. Vance. We believe she may not be of sound mind to make these decisions. Her behavior has been erratic, and we're concerned about her mental health. I felt Ellie stiffen beside me. This was a common abuse tactic questioning the victim's sanity, but it was also dangerous because judges sometimes took it seriously. Judge Harland looked at me directly for the first time. Ms. Vance, how do you respond to this allegation? I stood up. My voice was shaking but clear. Your Honor, I'm happy to undergo any evaluation you require. I'm a senior marketing director at a successful tech company. I manage a team of 15 people and annual budgets in the millions. I've never been hospitalized for mental health issues. I've never had a substance abuse problem. The only thing I've done is refuse to continue funding my family's lifestyle, and apparently that makes me crazy. The judge's lips twitched almost a smile. Nevertheless, I'm going to order the evaluation. Better to have it on record. We'll reconvene in 10 days after the evaluation is complete. I spent 5 hours with Dr. Lee, a court-appointed psychologist. She ran me through every test imaginable: cognitive function, emotional stability, decision-making capacity, risk assessment. I answered every question honestly, told her about the years of financial exploitation, the manipulation, the guilt, the relief I felt after setting boundaries. When it was over, she closed her folder and looked at me. Ms. Vance, off the record, you're one of the sanest people I've evaluated in years. You've been through trauma, yes, but your responses are healthy and appropriate. You're not crazy. You're healing. 3 days later, her official report was filed with the court. No evidence of cognitive impairment, mood disorders, or diminished capacity. Ms. Vance demonstrates high executive function and appropriate emotional regulation. Ellie called me with the news. Harper, we won this round. The report is damning for their case, but there's something else. Your mother filed a civil suit against you. She's claiming you owe them $60,000 for family support and accrued interest. On what basis? She's claiming they paid for your college education and you verbally agreed to pay them back. She's submitted receipts. Let me guess, Comic Sans font. Close. Times New Roman, but obviously created in Microsoft Word last week. The dates don't even match the university's billing schedule. She's also claiming your father has medical expenses from his hospital stay. He was never hospitalized. I know, and we're going to prove it. I've already subpoenaed hospital records for the entire county. This is going to backfire on them spectacularly. The civil suit hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later on the same day as the restraining order hearing. Everything was coming to a head. In the meantime, my life became a nightmare of legal preparation. Ellie and I spent hours going through my bank statements, building a timeline of every dollar I'd sent to my family. It totaled over $63,000 in 4 years, money I'd never get back. Skylar sent more evidence. She'd been keeping records too, apparently. Photos of the fake loan papers Mom had forged. Text messages from years ago where Mom bragged to her friends about her Vegas wins. Even a statement from an old neighbor who remembered Mom and Dad taking frequent trips to Reno. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I stood in my kitchen at 2 a.m. staring at the evidence spread across my dining table. My entire relationship with my family reduced to bank statements and threatening text messages. My phone buzzed. A message from Bill, my elderly neighbor. Saw your light on. You okay, kiddo? I smiled. Bill had checked on me every day since the door incident. He'd even offered to testify if needed. Nervous about tomorrow. Big court date. You'll do great. Those folks don't deserve you. Get some rest. The next morning, I put on my best suit, the navy blue one I wore to important client presentations. Ellie met me at the courthouse steps. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. The courtroom was small oak paneled and smelled like old books. My family sat on one side with their lawyer. Skylar appeared via video call, her face stern and serious on the screen. Ellie had arranged for her to testify remotely from Portland. Judge Harland entered and everyone stood. She reviewed the files, her expression unreadable. We're here for two matters. First, the restraining order. Second, the civil claim. Let's start with the restraining order. Counselor Reyes, your case. Ellie stood and laid it out systematically. The harassment timeline, the threatening messages, the workplace sabotage, the attempted forced entry, the false medical emergency. She played the doorbell camera footage of Jack slamming his body against my door. Several people in the courtroom gasped. Mom's lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, family disputes often involve heightened emotions. Assault isn't an emotion, Counselor, Judge Harland said dryly. Continue, Ms. Reyes. Then it was time for Skylar's testimony. Her face filled the screen and I saw Mom go rigid in her seat. Ms. Vance, how long have you been estranged from your family? Ellie asked. 10 years. Can you tell the court why? Skylar's voice was steady and cold. My mother forged my signature on a car loan when I was 22. Destroyed my credit. When I confronted her, she turned the entire family against me, claimed I was lying. Then I discovered she'd also stolen money meant for my sister Harper's education. $18,000 that she gambled away in Las Vegas. Ellie pulled up the evidence on the courtroom monitor. The casino receipts, the bank statements, the selfie of Mom grinning at the roulette table. These receipts are dated March 15th through March 28th, correct? Correct. And during this time, your mother told Harper that her tuition was paid. Yes. Harper was working herself to death that semester, pulling double shifts at the library, eating ramen because she thought she had to pay for everything herself. Meanwhile, Mom was dropping chips at the Bellagio. I watched Mom's face crumble, not from shame, from rage at being exposed. Her lawyer stood. Objection. This is ancient history and irrelevant to the current matter. Judge Harland looked at him over her glasses. It establishes a pattern of financial exploitation and deception. Overruled. Continue. Ellie then entered my bank statements into evidence. Every transfer highlighted in yellow. Your Honor, over a period of 4 years, Ms. Vance sent a total of $63,400 to her family. This includes the 500 monthly payments emergency funds and various other requests. Not once did her family express gratitude or indicate this was a loan to be repaid. Then came the fake receipts Mom had submitted with her civil claim. Ellie projected them on the screen. Your Honor, these are the receipts the plaintiffs submitted claiming they paid for Ms. Vance's tuition. You'll notice several irregularities. First, the format doesn't match any official university document. Second, the dates don't align with Boise State's billing schedule. Third, and most damning, this receipt claims a payment of $6,000 on September 5th, but university records show tuition that year was $6,500 per semester, and Ms. Vance's account shows she paid it herself via student loans. Mom's lawyer looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Your Honor, my clients may have been mistaken about the amounts. Mistaken or fraudulent, Judge Harland said. This is a serious allegation of forgery presented to an officer of the court. I'm not inclined to view it leniently. But Ellie wasn't done. She pulled out the hospital records. Your Honor, the plaintiffs also claimed that Mr. Vance was hospitalized with a heart condition which they used to justify harassing Ms. Vance's workplace. I've obtained records from every hospital in Ada County. Rick Vance was not admitted to any facility during the time period in question. The photo they circulated was a stock image which I've traced to a free medical image website. Judge Harland turned to Mom and Dad. Mr. and Mrs. Vance, do you have anything to say in your defense? Mom stood, tears streaming down her face. It was the performance of a lifetime. Your Honor, I may have made mistakes in how I communicated, but everything I did was out of love for my daughter. We raised her, sacrificed for her, and she abandoned us when we needed her most. I felt something inside me snap. Before Ellie could stop me, I stood up. Your Honor, may I speak? Judge Harland looked surprised, but nodded. Go ahead, Ms. Vance. I don't remember my mother sacrificing anything for me. I remember working through college while my brother got free rent. I remember paying for my own books while he got a PlayStation. I remember eating ramen while she gambled away my tuition. I remember being told I was selfish for wanting to keep my own paycheck after years of supporting them. I've spent my entire adult life trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given. And the moment I said no, the moment I tried to build my own life, they showed up at my door at midnight trying to break it down. They sent fake emails to my workplace. They posted lies about me on social media. They filed a fraudulent lawsuit. That's not love your honor. That's not sacrifice. That's exploitation, pure and simple. The courtroom was silent. Even Mom had stopped crying. Judge Harland looked at me for a long moment, then back at her papers. I've heard enough. First, regarding the restraining order. The evidence is overwhelming. The behavior demonstrated by the Vance family constitutes harassment, intimidation, and attempted assault. I'm granting a 5-year restraining order. Rick, Brenda, and Jax Vance are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Harper Vance, her residence, or her workplace. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Mom gasped. Dad put his head in his hands. Second, regarding the civil claim. Not only am I dismissing the claim with prejudice, I'm sanctioning the plaintiffs for submitting fraudulent evidence to this court. Mrs. Vance, you will pay Ms. Vance's legal fees in the amount of $20,000 within 30 days. Failure to pay will result in a lien on your property. The gavel came down like thunder. Mom's face went from shocked to furious in seconds. She stood up, pointing at me. This isn't over, Harper. You can't do this to your family. The bailiff moved toward her. Ma'am, you need to leave the courtroom now. She's my daughter. I have rights. Judge Harlan's voice cut through the chaos like ice. You have the right to leave my courtroom before I hold you in contempt. Your daughter also has rights which you've been violating for years. Officers escort them out. As the bailiff guided Mom toward the door, she was still screaming. You'll regret this. We're your family. Blood is thicker than water. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else. It means chosen family is stronger than biological family. Ellie squeezed my hand as they were escorted out. It's over, Harper. You won. But it wasn't quite over yet. As we walked down the courthouse hallway toward the exit, I saw Jax. He was leaning against the vending machine, scrolling through his phone. When he saw me, his face twisted with rage. He pushed off the wall and started walking toward me, fast. 2 police officers appeared from nowhere, stepping between us. Sir, you're in violation of the restraining order. It took effect the moment the judge signed it. Jax's hands balled into fists. She's my sister. I can talk to my own sister. Not anymore, one officer said, reaching for his handcuffs. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. This is bullshit, Jax shouted, but he complied. The click of the handcuffs echoed in the marble hallway. You're going to pay for this, Harper. You hear me? You're going to fucking pay. The officers walked him away, his voice echoing back through the building until a door closed and there was silence. I stood there for a moment, Ellie beside me, watching the spot where my brother had disappeared. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad. I felt empty, like I'd just survived a hurricane and was standing in the wreckage, not quite believing it was over. Come on, Ellie said gently. Let's get you home. That night, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine, looking at my phone. The family group chat had gone silent. The text messages had stopped. My social media was quiet. It felt surreal. There was one message, though, from Grandpa Howard. Just 5 words. Proud of you, kiddo. Stay strong. I cried then. Real tears. Not from sadness, but from relief. From exhaustion. From the weight of years finally lifting off my shoulders. The next few weeks were strange. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for them to find some loophole, some way to worm back into my life. But the restraining order held. I'd see Mom's car occasionally, always staying exactly 501 feet away. She'd glare at me from that distance, her face a mask of hatred. But she couldn't come closer. Jax spent 3 days in jail for the restraining order violation, then disappeared. I heard through the grapevine that he'd moved to Reno, crashing with poker buddies. Apparently, he'd finally found his calling, losing money at card tables. Rick and Brenda's financial situation deteriorated rapidly. They couldn't pay the $20,000 in legal fees, so Ellie put a lien on their house. They were forced to sell their RV dream and move into a weekly motel, the kind with flickering vacancy signs and thin walls. I should have felt guilty. Dr. Chin warned me I might. But I didn't. they'd made their choices. The casino receipts and the fake tuition documents became part of a police investigation. Fraud charges were filed. I didn't push for them, but once the evidence was submitted to the court, it became a matter of public record. The local news picked up the story. "Local parents accused of defrauding daughter," read the headline. Mom called it persecution. I called it consequences. Work got better. The clients who'd left came back once the full story emerged. Sawyer from HR personally apologized. "I should have trusted you more," she said. "I'm sorry you had to go through that." My team threw me a small party when the restraining order was finalized. Nothing big, just cake in the break room and heartfelt congratulations. They didn't know all the details, but they knew I'd been through something difficult. 8 months after the court case, I got promoted again. Vice President of Marketing overseeing all digital innovation initiatives. $320,000 a year. A corner office with a view of the Boise River. A team of 30 people looking to me for guidance. I stood in that office on my first day looking out at the water and thought about the girl who'd eaten ramen in a dorm room working double shifts to afford textbooks. She'd have been so proud. She'd have been terrified too, probably, but proud. Skylar and I started talking regularly. Not constantly, we both had busy lives, but once a month we'd video chat and catch up. She'd rebuilt her life in Portland working as a nurse, married to a kind woman named Andrea. She'd created the family she wanted instead of accepting the one she was born into. "You should come visit," she said during one call. "Portland in spring is beautiful." "I will," I promised, and I meant it. Grandpa Howard's health declined that year. I visited him every Sunday at the retirement home. We'd have coffee and talk about nothing important. He never asked about Mom and Dad. I never brought them up. It was an unspoken agreement that some silences were comfortable. One Sunday, he grabbed my hand with his weathered fingers. "You did good, kid. You got out. Some people never do." "Did you ever want to?" I asked. He smiled, sad but wise. "Every damn day. But my generation, we didn't know how. We just endured. You kids, you're smarter. You know when to walk away." He passed away 3 months later quietly in his sleep. The funeral was small. I was there. Skylar flew in. Mom and Dad sat in the back row exactly 500 feet from where I stood at the front. They couldn't approach me, couldn't speak to me, could only watch from a distance as I delivered the eulogy. I told stories about the real Grandpa Howard, the one who taught me to fish, the one who slipped me $20 bills and told me to spend it on something frivolous, the one who always had time to listen. When it was over, I walked past my parents without looking at them. Mom tried to say something, started to step forward, but Dad pulled her back. The restraining order had 2 more years left. They were learning. Life settled into a new normal. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. Mostly, I focused on work and on building the life I actually wanted. I took a cooking class and learned to make actual meals instead of microwaved dinners. I joined a book club. I adopted a cat, a grumpy orange tabby I named Pepper, who judged me silently from his favorite sunny spot. I bought a house, not a big one, just a 2-bedroom bungalow with a small yard and good bones. The day I signed the papers, I stood in the empty living room and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I planted an apple tree in the backyard. It was small, just a sapling, but the nursery worker assured me it would grow strong if I took care of it. I watered it religiously. Watched it survive its first winter. Celebrated when the first buds appeared in spring. That apple tree became a metaphor for everything. New growth after a harsh season. Roots establishing themselves in good soil. The promise of fruit in the future, but only if you're patient and do the work. I still see my family occasionally. Boise is a small enough city that complete avoidance is impossible. I'll spot Mom at the grocery store carefully maintaining the 500-foot distance. She looks older now. Harder. The pearls and the careful makeup can't hide the bitterness etched into her face. I heard Jax came back to town, briefly stayed at the motel with them for a few weeks before disappearing again. Someone said he'd joined a traveling poker circuit chasing the big win that would fix everything. Still looking for someone else to solve his problems. Rick sent me a letter once after the restraining order expired. It was forwarded through Ellie's office. 3 pages of single-spaced handwriting trying to explain to justify to somehow make me understand. I read the first paragraph, then threw it away. Some explanations don't matter anymore. Dr. Chen and I still meet monthly. I don't need weekly sessions anymore. Now we talk about growth, about building healthy relationships, about recognizing red flags early. She told me recently that I'm one of her success stories. You broke a generational cycle, she said. That takes tremendous courage. It didn't feel courageous, I admitted. It felt like survival. Sometimes they're the same thing. The marketing app my team developed launched last spring. Within the first month, it hit 1 million downloads. The company's stock jumped 30%. My boss, Victor, raised a champagne toast at the celebration dinner. To Harper's vision, he said. But my proudest moment wasn't the app launch or the promotion or the house. It was smaller than that, more personal. It was a Christmas card from Skylar. Every December, like clockwork, she sends one. Just her signature, nothing elaborate. I put it on my refrigerator next to Pepper's vet appointment reminder and a photo of my apple tree in bloom. That card represents something bigger than paper and ink. It represents a sister who came back. A relationship rebuilt on mutual respect instead of obligation. A choice we both made to be family to each other, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. And then, last month, something happened that I didn't expect. I was at a coffee shop downtown, working on a presentation on my laptop when someone sat down across from me. I looked up and my heart stopped. It was Jenna. No, not Jenna. That was the old name from the old story. This was a woman I'd never seen before, but she had that same desperate energy my mother used to have. She started talking fast, telling me about her daughter who'd cut her off, asking if I'd been through something similar, if I had advice. I closed my laptop, looked at her carefully, saw the manipulation already forming the way she was positioning herself as the victim, testing to see if I'd be sympathetic. I do have advice, I said calmly. Ask yourself why your daughter left. Really ask without making excuses. Look at your own behavior honestly. And if you find that you've been taking advantage of her, apologizing and changing. If you find that you haven't respected her boundary anyway, her no means no. The woman's face hardened. That's harsh. So is exploiting your children, I said, packing up my laptop. Good luck. I walked out of that coffee shop with my head high. 5 years ago, I would have stayed, would have tried to help to mediate, to fix something that wasn't mine to fix. But I've learned that not everyone wants to change. Learned that my compassion doesn't obligate me to set myself on fire to keep others warm. Now, as I write this, I'm sitting in my backyard. It's early evening, golden hour, and the light is hitting the apple tree in that perfect way that makes everything look magical. The tree has fruit this year. Small apples, a little tart, but real. Actual fruit from actual growth. I water the tree with my garden hose and the spray catches the light, making tiny rainbows. My hands are dirty from pulling weeds earlier. Pepper is sitting in the window watching me with his judgmental orange eyes. This is my life now. A life I built myself on my terms with boundaries intact. No group chat notifications. No midnight door pounding. No fake emergencies or manipulative guilt trips. People ask me sometimes if I regret cutting off my family. If I miss them, the answer is complicated. I miss the family I thought I had. The one where parents support their children without expecting payback, where siblings are actually friends, where love isn't conditional on your bank account. But that family never actually existed. It was a fantasy I clung to because accepting the truth was too painful. I don't miss the family I actually had, the one that saw me as an ATM. That valued my brother's comfort over my survival. That lied and manipulated and threatened when I finally said enough. Zero contact isn't failure. It's not giving up. It's not being heartless or cold or any of the other things people called me in those Facebook comments years ago. Zero contact is a boundary. It's self-preservation. It's saying that my peace matters more than someone else's entitlement to disturb it. It's choosing to water my own apple tree instead of pouring all my resources into soil that refuses to grow anything good. I control my own story now. I choose my roots. I choose my growth. And when the apples come, I'll pick them in a season I decide. Not when someone demands them. Not when someone feels entitled to the fruit of my labor. But when they're ripe and ready and mine to share with people who respect what it took to grow them. That's not revenge. That's not even justice, really. That's freedom. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to cut someone out of your life to save yourself? Have you ever been the bad guy in someone else's story because you refused to be their victim anymore? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about breaking cycles and building better lives. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Sometimes saving yourself means letting others face the consequences of their own choices. And sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. The apple tree is blooming again next spring. I'll be here to see it. Will you?